Today sees the launch of 3 new pedals from Paul Reed Smith, the guitars and amplifier company, and now pedals. So we've got 3 different pedals to talk about. All these pedals are based on a lot of Paul's favourite pedals and kind of a lot of stuff that he uses himself. We've got a compressor, an overdrive and a flanger. We've got the Cries optical compressor, the Wind Through the Trees dual analog flanger, and the Horsemeat transparent overdrive. Horsemeat. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to add anything else. I'm sure the comments will come flooding in. All that matters is the tone right. So let's just focus on that today, rather than that it's called the Horsemeat. But let's just think that maybe it's kind of a clon killer. That's kind of the direction that we think it's maybe going towards. I don't know. So anyway, a little bit of background on today's video. A lot of the time, I know on some of the comments I've seen in the past when we've done kind of new product releases, I've seen a few comments that say, "Oh, you know, I really wish you guys would, do a little bit more studying on the products before you start recording and stuff like that as well." And like today, we've literally had Jez, our good friend from PRS, turn up with the pedals and go, "Right, plug them in, do a video. I've got to go. Get it done as soon as you can." So this is a case of like, we're going to learn. We're going to show you some of the things that you can do as we go, but we're kind of, learning as we go as well. But, there's nothing there too taxing, I don't think. I think I can probably get through without having to look into the manual too much. But if you do have any more questions, we'll probably be doing some follow-up videos when we've actually got some stock as well. Today is just kind of just a first look at kind of seeing what the pedals sound like, and just give you an overall kind of idea and feel what it's all about. So I'm going to start off with the Cries, which is an optical compressor. Fairly basic controls. You have an output gain and compression control. All the pedals, I'm told, are true bypass as well. So I'll just give you an idea of the clean sound. I'm going to add a little bit of compression in now. Just start off low. Like all good compressors, you kind of really notice it when it's off. You kind of feel a little bit sad that nice juicy little bit of compression that's helping you out has kind of gone. For me, a good compressor, it's all about kind of almost what it doesn't do to your tone. You want it to give you that kind of extra juice behind the note and smooth things out a bit, but you don't want it taking anything away from your core fundamental tone. So with a Strat style guitar like this, you're obviously getting a lot of kind of extra kind of juice out of the signal on single notes. So this is it bypass. And then when you add the compression in, it kind of just smooths everything out and just gives everything a little lift. So it kind of adds a really nice thickness and fullness to the sound, but you never kind of think, it's becoming too overly squished or anything like that. Even when you do kind of crank up the compression on this, it's still adding that extra warmth and tone that you want from a great compressor, but it still doesn't mess with the overall tone of the guitar. I'll just give you an idea of how that sounds. And even when you dig in, it's really got kind of a really rich tone to it still. Just really adds kind of some richness to a Strat that I think a lot of people in the past have always thought that kind of tone is a very low gain overdrive, but a lot of the time it's just a really good amp with just kind of a little bit of compression just hitting the front end. Just going to roll the compression back and just give it kind of a little bit extra gain, and you can kind of hear how it's going to hit the front end of the amp a lot harder now. Kind of go a little bit sad when you turn it off, because all that squishy juiciness and inspiration is kind of all gone. I feel sad now that tone's no longer there, but I mean, this is kind of the most kind of compressed it's going to get if you really turn up that compression and the output gain. But it's still kind of not taking over the you know, the overall tone of the guitar and the amp. Like I said, there's a lot of other pedals out there that will give you that kind of super squished sound, like a Dynacomp, you know, gets into that super, you know, squished out kind of funk guitar sound. This probably isn't for that. I think it's really just for enhancing a great rig already. It's not there to turn you into Nile Rodgers, I don't think, but you know, maybe it is. So let's go through to the Wind Through the Trees. I want to leave the Horsemeat for last. So let's go through the Wind Through the Trees. So this is a dual analog flanger. I am going to actually consult the manual and see why it is what it is. So it says, with the Wind Through the Trees, the dual flanger, your tonal possibilities are endless. Experiment and find out what settings are best for you. Here is one of Paul's favourite settings to get you started. So why don't we start with that? But the description of this pedal is basically as this. The Wind Through the Trees dual flangers sound is best described as two flangers fighting each other, resulting in a sound reminiscent of the wind whipping through the trees. This manual is your guide to setting up quickly so you can start making music with your new pedal. So let's start with these settings that are approved by the man himself. So let's go with that. Let's go there. It's got a little bit of Leslie action hopefully happening here. Let's see what happens. So let's get going with that. So like we said, you know, a lot of the time with these gear demos and stuff that we do, we are thrown in right at the deep end basically. So this is the first time we've tried any of these pedals out. We haven't had hours and hours of sound checking and playing around with all these things. We're literally thrown into the deep end, because you know, these pedals will be going off to be reviewed elsewhere and stuff like that as well. So you know, we're learning as you are. So hope you like what you hear, and yeah, any questions please ask, and when we have more samples for stock, we'll probably film some longer videos, more detailed videos with different guitars and amps and stuff like that. So let's see what the Paul setting does. Almost kind of getting tones there that are reminiscent of kind of a chorus and a flanger going on. What you can kind of do with this is kind of set things a little bit faster, so you can have a slower rate one side, and then you can almost go into like a Leslie type sort of thing. So if you turn this mix control up onto the LFO2 side, we're getting a little bit more of that Leslie. it's got kind of that sort of vibratone kind of thing going on. I'm sure, I mean, things can get really extreme with a lot of the settings if you crank up the depth. Let's cut it right back on the speed and see kind of what happens with that. I think what you can hear really from the two pedals that we've tried so far, the tonal integrity of the instrument is kind of is there throughout. Even with the more extreme settings, as we've gone to the on the flanger, you can still hear that it's got, you know, a great Marshall style tone, and you know, with a great Strat style guitar. I say a great Marshall style tone because this is the HX100 amp, which is kind of a replica of the Hendrix touring amp that PRS got their hands on. So I'm going to put everything at halfway, see what happens there. Like I say, we'll be coming out with some extra videos as well when we've got more of these in stock, and we'll go through some of the extra features and settings. I just wanted to give you a kind of just a brief overview today. So yeah, a really kind of dynamic, musical sounding flanger. I know it's kind of not a pedal that's going to be for everybody straight away, but there's a lot of features in there that will be able to kind of get all kind of different modulation tones and vibe kind of tones out of it as well as you go. And with all these dry wet control and the mix control that you've got here, along with the depth controls, you can really fine tune it from anything from subtle chorus right through to kind of the real crazy end of the scale. I'm just trying to give you kind of a feel today of what the overall tone is all about of the pedal anyway. So let's turn this all down, because those lights are going to cause me to pass out if I keep looking at those flashing lights very fast. So right, you're off now. So moving on to the Horsemeat. I mean, I did have a quick play with it earlier to kind of get the overall vibe. It is kind of, you know, where I thought it would be. It's transparent overdrive, as you can see on the box there. Yeah, Horsemeat. I just don't want to get in trouble with PRS. Basically, I'm seeing him in a couple of weeks, and I think he's going to tell me off already for even alluding that Horsemeat is a slightly bizarre choice for a name of pedal. But what do I know? These the big wigs at PRS know better than me, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's what it sounds like that counts. So give you an idea of the bypass tone again. Just kind of just on the edge of breakup Strat kind of tone. So you've got fairly basic controls on this, level, gain, and then you have treble and bass controls, and then this voice control is kind of an EQ for the clipping section of the pedal. So what I'm going to do is start off with a fairly low gain and kind of use it as a boost just to see where that kind of takes us, and then we can sort of see what kind of gain levels and tonal changes we can get out of the pedal as well. So let's try that. So it's a meaty tone, that's for sure, but is it horse meaty? So as you can tell, very kind of dynamic sounding overdrive straight away. I'm going to just turn this voice control back a little bit, which will kind of soften the high end. So if you're into a kind of a smoother kind of lead tone, that will kind of add a little bit of that to it. So let's crank that back up. Automatically that tone there just kind of makes you dig in a bit more and gives it more of that Texas kind of vibe. So let's kind of try and warm it up, add some extra gain into the mix. So got a very active treble and bass control here. So I'm going to try and get a much creamier sound now if we can. So let's try that. So I'm even going to go on the bridge pickup and let's kind of see how rich we can get it. I mean, you can hear straight away it's adding loads of extra weight to the sound of the single coil pickup on the bridge here. Adds loads of extra muscle to the sound of the neck pickup there, kind of a even more meaty tone. So I'm not going to say meat anymore. So let's try and get a bit more of that cut back into it with this higher gain sound. So let's cut that bass back a little bit, turn the voice up a bit more, and let's see where that takes us. Going to clean up the volume of the tone from the guitar. Great. I mean, you can just hear it's a super dynamic, versatile sounding overdrive. The Horsemeat bit is going to get everybody talking about it for well, till the end of days, I'm sure. But it's just a great sounding pedal, and like always, everything that PRS does, always very musical sounding. I know Paul Reed-Smith isn't a fan of kind of high end, which you can hear, you know, on this pedal. It's really rich. You don't get any muddiness though when a lot of these pedals, when they're really trying to cut the high end. I mean, that's got high end to spare as well if you really want to get it bitey and cutting sounding, but this has got a really kind of rich musical sound. You know, even when we was on the bridge pickup here, it never really got super harsh or thin or anything like that. So no matter what you say about the name or anything like that, it is a great sounding overdrive pedal, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more about it soon. What I'm going to do quickly is just give it a quick blast with a humbucker loaded guitar. But like I said, if you've got any more questions, please please feel free to ask. Obviously, as this video goes out, we'll hopefully starting to get some stock in, and we'll be able to learn a little bit more about the pedals. But after I'm done here with this, they're literally going straight back in a van and getting delivered elsewhere. So sorry, it's been like I haven't done a full feature length like presentation on all the controls of of all the pedals, but like I said earlier, it's kind of our first look and your chance to have a first look and just give it an idea whether you actually like them or not to start with. So we're going to get a humbucker guitar now and see how we get on with that one. So see you in a minute. Cool, right, so we're back with the PRS single cut. This is one of our single cut quilt limited edition guitars. Got a few of these in stock at the moment. We've also got the double cut version as well, but that's another story. So anyway, I'm going to start off with the Mary Cries. I'm just going to mainly focus on the Mary Cries and the Horsemeat with this guitar. One thing that I learned from David Grissom on one of his videos a few years ago, whenever he uses like the coil splits or the taps on his guitars, he often uses a compressor just to kind of give the single coil mode a little bit more of a lift. Not with loads of compression, but just kind of a little bit of compression and a little bit of output to kind of bring it back up to where the sound of the humbucker was, which I find to be super useful, and it kind of just tightens everything up a little bit and just makes it sound even more authentic single coil sounding. So this is the next split without the compressor on. So let's add the compression now. It just adds kind of a little bit of extra focus and some extra dynamics to the sound, which is kind of almost the opposite of what you would expect from a compressor. So this is the bridge split. Now with the compression on. So yeah, a really cool way to use compression for adding kind of a little bit of extra depth and extra bite and cut, I guess, to the overall tone. So let's have a look at the Horsemeat now with humbuckers. So I'll kind of leave it set where we had it before, but it's probably going to be a bit too overpowering with humbuckers, but it's neat to try these sort of things. So the bass is cranked right up, the voice is right down, the gain's pretty high, so it's going to be pretty thick sounding. So clean sound. You can hear the sound of the pickups already are pushing the amp a little bit harder, but let's see what happens now. Very creamy. So let's try and dial that back a bit, see if we can kind of get a little bit more traditional PAF kind of cut out of this. So let's turn up the voice, gain down a smidge, get a little bit more level. I've kind of left the treble where it was, but I've turned the bass back a fair bit now. So yeah, it's got a lot of kind of dynamics there. It's really changed the overall kind of voice of the guitar a lot, because it's gone from that super creamy sound to kind of a much more bitey PAF kind of sound. So let's give it a little bit more treble and a little bit more on the voice, and let's see what that does. can hear there's a whole lot of power in these controls. But I think what we've kind of established with either a Strat style guitar or a humbucker, wherever you put these controls, it always sounds musical, and it's always a great tone that you can use in kind of all different sorts of applications. So I'm just going to end it with everything at halfway, do some more of my usual random blues noodling, and yeah, just have a bit of a twang. So thanks for watching as always. If you've got any more questions, like I said, I know I've repeated myself loads in the video, but when we get put on the spot to do these kind of videos and we don't get a chance to kind of plan, I kind of get a bit flustered. But you know, it is what it is. It's rock and roll, it's guitars, it's amps, it's pedals, it's everything that we love. So let's go.